do is force private entities to take actions that the government cannot take directly. Government officials threatening adverse consequences for disfavored content is an unconstitutional coercion that chills protected speech.
Okay, so you just saw that clip, and I know you felt it. That was Ted Cruz going head-to-head with FCC Chairman Carr, and that was just the opener. What you're about to watch is one of the most composed takedowns of government overreach I've seen in a congressional hearing in a long time. I call it as I see it. But when someone walks in, lays out a clear argument, gets agreement from the person they're questioning, and puts a spotlight on real constitutional violations, you have to give credit where it's due.
Cruz came in prepared.
He came in sharp, and he came in with receipts. Love him or hate him, what he said in that hearing room deserves to be heard and talked about. Because this isn't just about Fox News or Jimmy Kimmel. This is about whether the government gets to decide what you're allowed to say and hear. That should matter to every single one of us. So before we dive into the full reaction, smash that like button, subscribe if you're new, and tell me in the comments, do you think the government has gone too far in controlling speech? I want to hear from you. Now, let's watch the whole thing.
All right.
We just watched the whole thing.
Thank you to each of you. Chairman Carr, let's start with free speech. I think you would agree that the FCC's public interest standard has been weaponized against conservatives in the past. In 2018, Senate Democrats tried to pressure the FCC to use the public interest standard to stop Sinclair Broadcasting Group from acquiring Tribune Media. In 2023, leftists sought to stop a routine renewal of a Fox-owned broadcast station over complaints about 2020 election coverage. Do you agree that that was wrong?
Yes, Senator, I agree. And those are cases, in fact, where rather than following FCC precedent, the agency broke from it and did so in a weaponized way.
Now, another area of agreement between you and I is that Jimmy Kimmel is angry, overtly partisan, and profoundly unfunny. That, sadly, is true for most late-night comedians today who seem to have been collectively broken by President Trump's election. Jimmy's remarks about Charlie Kirk were tasteless, and ABC and its affiliates would have been fully within their rights to fire him or simply to no longer air his program. That was their choice. But what government cannot do is force private entities to take actions that the government cannot take directly. Government officials threatening adverse consequences for disfavored content is an unconstitutional coercion that chills protected speech. This is why it was so insidious how the Biden administration jawboned social media into shutting down conservatives online over accurate information on COVID or voter fraud. My Democrat colleagues were persistently silent over that scandal, but I welcome them now having discovered the First Amendment in the Bill of Rights. Democrat or Republican, we cannot have the government arbitrating truth or opinion. Mr. Chairman, my question is this. So long as there is a public interest standard, shouldn't it be understood to encompass robust First Amendment protections to ensure that the FCC cannot use it to chill speech?
Yes, Senator, I agree with you there. And I think the examples you laid out of weaponization during the Biden years are perfect examples. The Fox case you mentioned was a renewal for a broadcast TV license, and petitioners sought to have the FCC not renew it based on content that aired on a separate cable channel. In the cable context, it's entirely different. There's no license, there's no public interest standard. So first and foremost, we have to make sure the FCC is hewing to precedent. Similarly, we saw Democrats in Congress write letters to cable companies, pressuring them to drop Fox News, OAN, and Newsmax because they disagreed with the political perspectives of those cable channels. And there, again, it was cable. No broadcast license, no public interest standard. So the FCC has to write within the four corners of our precedents to be consistent with the Communications Act and the First Amendment concerns as well.
So let's get into it. First, notice how Cruz opened. He didn't come in swinging wildly. He came in with specific cases. The 2018 Sinclair Tribune situation. The 2023 Fox license renewal attempt. These are documented instances where the public interest standard was twisted to go after right-leaning media. And Chairman Carr didn't push back because he couldn't. It happened. When the person you're questioning agrees your examples are valid, you've already won the first round. Now, the Jimmy Kimmel moment. I know that's what people are going to clip and share, and fair enough, it landed. But Cruz was making a serious point underneath it. He said ABC had every right to fire Kimmel or pull his show. He was actually defending the private sector's freedom to make that call. What he was drawing a line against was the government forcing that outcome. That's an important distinction, and a lot of people miss it. Which brings me to what I think was the most powerful moment in the whole hearing. Cruz said that government officials threatening consequences for disfavored content is unconstitutional coercion. Because what he's describing isn't hypothetical. We watched it happen. The Biden administration leaned on social media companies to suppress certain viewpoints. Stories about COVID origins, questions about election integrity. Accounts were flagged, throttled, and removed. And these weren't fringe voices. These were journalists, doctors, and ordinary people asking legitimate questions. And where were the Democrats during all of that? Cruz asked the same question, and the silence said everything. Now, with a new administration in place, some of those same voices have suddenly rediscovered the First Amendment. Cruz noticed, and he was right to call it out. What I respect most is the principle he kept coming back to. This cannot be partisan. Democrat or Republican, the government does not get to referee truth. The moment it does, we are all in trouble regardless of which side benefits in the short term. That's not a conservative argument. That's a constitutional one. And the final exchange with Chairman Carr tied it all up. Cruz asked directly whether the public interest standard should explicitly protect First Amendment freedoms so the FCC can never weaponize it again. Carr said yes. Full stop. That's the kind of accountability these hearings are supposed to produce and rarely do. Cruz is a polarizing figure, I get it. But in this hearing,